Welcome to KGXT, Gen X Talks podcast, live from Central California.
Making plans with the boys. I'm gonna hit the town. Yeah, I'm gonna make some noise. I'll push past the pain and my wounded pride. I'm gonna live it up. Yeah, stay out all night. But sure, I've had some better times. And I can't count all the tears I've cried. And maybe down my last time. Yeah, but the blues to me just fine.
Need to get done.
So, all right, listen, everybody sit down. It's time to put the cat out and let the dog in, pull the drapes, grab your beverage, and sit down in your chair. Now, the reason I say bring the dogs is, well, the dogs like these interviews. The cat's not so much. So put them out, let the dog in, and listen. Now, if you're looking for the podcast where my wife just beats the shit out of me for an hour, the audio podcast, this isn't it. This is one of the interviews. Yes, I know. If you don't like the interviews, guess what? Use the skip button. Don't write me an email. Don't tell me about it. I don't care. Just use the skip button and move on to the podcast. Then you're happy. I'm happy. Do you see how that works? We both have a way to be happy. Now, if you like the interviews, which many of you do, I think this is going to be the 17th or 18th published one. And yes, I got a ton of them we haven't got to yet. Just relax. I'm doing the best I can. There's only one of me. I know how big I am. Makes it look like there's two of me, but there's not. There's one. And it takes some time to get going. Now, settle down for this interview because I think this is going to be a lot of fun. You guys are going to learn some stuff here. And I think what this is going to teach you is where to go next. Yeah, we'll cover some of that. We'll have a good time. We'll make fun of each other and we'll learn some things as we go. And yeah, Ken Rabow. Ken is a guy who's been doing this for over 20 some years. And what he does, obviously a guy like Ken, when he mentors children and teenagers and even young adults, he can't do it all himself. There's just one of him. So his idea was to get other people in positions where they can go out. Now, if he can get 30 people to go out, those 30 people can help 100 more. Do you see how the effective domino theory works? Yeah, that's because we're old guys and we understand how that works. We work smarter, not harder. All right, Ken Rabow, welcome to the program. Thanks for taking time to be here with Gen X Talks.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mark, at Gen X Talks. Thank you for having me, and I love your show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Now, let's just jump right in and give everybody a little bit of background. I'd like you to read a little bit of your resume, but start, where were you born? Where were you raised? What part of the country? And kind of give me the overview so everybody can kind of get a sense of where you were brought up to the point of when you decided that this is where you wanted to be. Just give us that part of it, would you?
It all started in a little radio station in Philadelphia. Oh, that's not my life.
No, your story.
My story.
Yeah.
I'm Canadian, A. We have to say A every third sentence, get used to it. And I'm from Montreal, Canada, and presently in Toronto, Canada. And I grew up in Montreal, which was great at the time. I was in the 50s and the 60s, and yes, I did wear a Nehru collar and some beads for about a week. Then I got over it. Huge fan of music and anything to do with music. My mom would tell this story that in nursery and kindergarten, the teacher would call and say, is Kenny, don't call me Kenny, is Kenny going to be at the concert? And after the fourth or fifth show, she said, what's the difference of Kenny's? Oh, Kenny's the only one who could play the cymbals in time. And then my mom would always end that story with, that's when I knew I was in trouble. And I loved playing music. I loved performing. I loved teaching. And at 13, I went into high school and got into the high school band as a drummer, as a percussionist, and started playing professionally when I was 16. Mainly jazz drums, which I loved. I was a huge Gene Krupa fan. It was sort of Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich. And I'd say Gene Krupa is the dancer and Buddy Rich is the acrobat.
Oh, Buddy Rich is a hell of a drummer.
Absolutely. I would say he is the one who shows you the gymnastics of the drums, whereas Gene Krupa made you dance.
You know, we did a poll on Gen X Talks sometime last year, and I do this all the time where one of them was drummers. I said, nominate every drummer from any era. I don't care. Let's vote on it. And we put up 4 drummers at a time, and it was a process of elimination.
Interesting.
And he made it all the way to the finals. I think out of all the drummers in the world, and this was hundreds and hundreds of thousands of votes, I think they came to the Gen X Talks fans came to the conclusion He was in the top 5 of all
That would
time.
make sense. Absolutely. And not so many people remember Gene Krupa. But he did this song that was really famous called Sing, Sing, Sing. Just made me dance. And it told you I was different than a lot of the other drummers. I went for the groove. I went for the swing, not just the flash. And so I
Right.
looked for that in teachers. And so all my teachers were mainly from the greatest generation. And there were 2 kinds of teachers I saw. And there were the ones, drummers are pooped on very much on stage. If you're going to poop on someone, you're going to poop on the drummer. And unfortunately, I've taught some drummers thinking, you're the reason they don't like drummers.
Not as bad as bass players, though.
Oh man, bass players are the peacemakers, man.
But bass,
I love
nobody,
bass
you're not a
players.
true fan of a band unless you know the name of the bass player. I mean, that's
I
just,
agree.
they're like and we have a bass player over here.
Low key dude, but it's always like they're always late. They're always like the ones that you love. Like as a drummer, you have to work really hard if you're a bass player for me not to immediately like you, because
Sure.
that's what we connect with.
Yep.
So I started working with different types of bands and different types of band leaders, and there were 2 kinds. I worked with 2 fairly city famous, one country famous in Canada guitarists. It was Nelson Simons and there was Ivan Simons. I'm cool using their names. Ivan Simons was great at his level, and he was one of those people that on the bandstand he got his power by crapping on someone else, usually the drummer.
Oh,
And there's a lot of performers who old school jazz. This is where they would come from. They call like jam sessions, like when you improvise, called the cutting sessions in the 40s and 50s. You were there to humiliate people off the bandstand.
wow.
And Ivan came from that world. And Nelson, who was a much better guitarist, one of Canada's greatest, and I was a fan of his band for 3 years, and then got to play for the last 2 years that they were open at Rockets Paradise. He would, if we had someone sit in with us, which was rare, you had to be good to sit in with our band, and they didn't do something quite as well, he would bring the band to the level of the performer and bring everything up.
Wow.
And so there's the Ivan approach and there's the Nelson approach. And when I started teaching drums, I went for the Ivan approach, and I went for the great mentors who had inspired me. And when I started teaching, so I left Montreal, went to Toronto, and started, I wrote music theater for young people to work with different cultures together, how to work with different cultures together. I wrote music theater for special needs people called Dual Diagnosis, and it was supposed to be pantomime. I spent 2 days speaking with these people. I said, they have to tell their stories, they have to laugh, they have to tell jokes, they have to tell their lives. They speak
And what
differently.
special needs was it? Just hearing impaired, or was there all sorts of?
What? No, I'm sorry.
Gotcha on that.
Drummer joke.
Yeah.
They were called dual diagnosis. These were people who had major mental health issues and major learning issues, and they had been just filed away until this incredible woman got a PhD to help her child and created a whole program. This has also inspired me to make my mentoring program.
Now hold on, just to spell that, because I'm a little lost on that.
Sure.
What were you doing with them? Were you teaching them an instrument, or were you playing for them, trying to use the
Great
music
question.
to get them in another direction, or?
Great question. So they had seen my musicals that I'd done on bringing cultures together. I think was the one they saw. It was called Bridges, where I used Jewish, Christian, and Muslim children to talk about harmony and how to work together. It was really
Right.
cool. And so this woman, Nechama, had seen it, or someone she knew had seen it. So she called me. She said, "What can you do to create a musical for these people to perform?" Her idea was I'd create a music theater piece. I'd write music, which is what I do, and I do the arrangements. I get people to come in and perform it, and I would direct it, or I would conduct it, and teach their people the songs. So I was working with people with different level of challenges to learn the songs, to do the acting, and then we got a director, because I'm not great as a director, but I am, I'm used to conducting and helping young people learn how to be their best on stage. And so I had songs for each of these people, and they would perform them, and I'd help them with the singing. And like there was so a lot of them, if I had said, Donna, I'm going to see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. You could actually just see her mind go like that, like that, like that. And it would take a minute, and she'd go, 4 o'clock? And I'd say, perfect, yes, absolutely.
Okay, now looking at the whole picture on that, I can see where that would be a huge thing for all sorts
so
of
much
levels
fun.
of challenges and disabilities to do
was so
something. Like
fun.
you're not just teaching them, you're teaching them, and then they're performing it. They're acting it out. They're coming to go.
Yes.
Okay, now that for me, no, it's an old guy, so I got some perspective on some things. That whole scenario, that whole project must have been extremely fulfilling for them and you.
Amazing. It was amazing for all of us. And what was interesting was I'd say, okay, well, she can only handle like 20 minutes, right? She has trouble remembering directions. And I'd do the singing with her, and we'd be face to face, and I'd be teaching her a line, and I would a da da ba ba. So she'd see my hands, and she'd say the words. Those are the
Yeah.
words I don't do. And after 20 minutes, she wasn't going to argue with me. I was saying, okay, Don, let's stop. But she wouldn't let me go because music with people, and whether it's ADHD, whether it's Asperger's or serious
Yeah.
mental health, there's a different pipeline, and you can get deep into them, and they can master something that they can't in anything else, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. It was so much fun, and it
Well, yeah.
changed how I taught.
It's one of those things where there's certain basic functions in life they don't quite comprehend, and then they can lock into something like that and be the best ever at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's an amazing. Those are amazing stories. When you see those on the news, or someone shows you something on a documentary or a 60 Minutes article, and you're blown away, and there you are working with them every day. That's great.
Well, I wasn't working with them every day. I was working with them 3 days a week, but that was already intense because it was a lot.
Maybe I should have used the word daily. We could have split it up. You work with them often and daily.
Very daily it is. And for 14 months, so from start to finish, it was about 14 months. And there was one guy who had been a trombone player. We'll get to the other stuff, but this is fun. And he had not worn his helmet on a bike, everyone, all you young whippersnappers listening, and was hit by a girder on a truck turning, and had, sort of like Memento, had no short-term memory. But in there was the music. And Nakama was amazing. And I said to her, I'm going to teach him a solo song, and he is going to perform at the show. And they said, Ken, it's impossible. And when I'd see him, I think it was Jason, I'd go, hi, Jason, it's Ken. And he'd just seen me like 2 days ago, right? Hi, Ken, nice to meet you. And we go through it every time. And then I'd have him sit down, and they'd say, well, if you go like this, so it's a K, I hope that's right, a K on the camera, he'll remember it's Ken. I said, if he can remember that, and I used all these things. So I wrote a song for him. It was kind of based on the movie Jimmy Stewart did, Harvey. About, fly specks. We're staring at fly specks when miracles are happening on 34th and some Maine or something. So I wrote a song called Fly Specks. And I would work with him, and I'd say, okay, Jason, fly specks. And he would nail it. Fly specks, worrying about fly specks. And we go through the thing, and he'd nail it, and he'd nail it, and he'd nail it. But no one told him he was going to be in front of 500 people. Now, I'm in the front of the room, and I am conducting all of these wonderful people. We had, I think, about almost 30 of them on stage at different times.
Wow.
And I'm conducting them. I'm in the first row. I'm conducting the band. And then Jason's like stage left, which, stage left. And I say, okay, it's time. I run up, and I take Jason. I go, hi, Jason. I'm Ken. He goes, hi, Ken. And I'm going to walk him on stage. And he looks out, and he goes, Ken, I'm scared. And we're like, no one freaking told him again that he's going to be in front of 500 people.
Right.
And I'm in the middle of a show. So I say, Jason, this is a song you've learned, and I'm going to show it to you, and you're going to do it great. Just look at me. And so I'm sort of like, he's on the spotlight, and I'm just off, so I'm sort of a little bit, and I do the whole thing, and he nails it. And
Wow.
Everyone rose to their feet at once at the end of the song. It was like, it wasn't on purpose, just like, whoosh,
Right.
and it was insane. all of that taught me, how's this to get back?
Yeah.
That I could help my helpers there to learn this different way that I kind of learned from Ivan. I learned from, not Ivan, from Nelson, from Jim Blackley, who taught me the art of life through jazz, and to use these to help millennials and then Gen Z who come from a different planet on how to be mentored. I do that with parents, but I also do that with people like yourself, like amazing people who care in the world on what's the disconnect? Why does this not work when it worked for all the other generations? And
I like the fact that you took the lessons you learned from jazz and applied it to an environment with special needs. To me, the story sounds like a breakthrough. Now, I got to tell you, there's a lot of millennials and Gen Zs. I think they're all special needs. I think there's something wrong with every goddamn one of them. But, that's just me. I'm looking at it from a very biased point of view. So, I do appreciate there's guys like you out there, because now you know exactly what they need. If I find one, I can bring them to you and go, Ken, this guy's really messed up. Help this guy, So how did that translate to what you wanted to end up doing?
Yes. Well, I loved teaching and I loved helping. And what happened with this show was I realized I could empower people who were stuck in every single way. I could go in and look at how they think and help them understand how to bridge to the next level.
Sure.
It was exciting. And so my journey after that was, screw it. I just want to play music and conduct and teach, which is what I did, and work with young people doing music theater, all this kind of stuff. And then Mr. H was in a hurry, went the wrong way on the street, hit my car. I was in a Toyota Solara. He was in a BMW X5. Big lesson, have the bigger car.
Yeah.
Truck. And everything's fine except partial thickness tear of the supraspinatus, which is fine unless you play drums and piano. About 15 months, terrible pain. And I had been working with millennials as a hobby, partly because they were starting to have anxiety that I had not seen when I was teaching Gen Xers music. I saw millennials. I go, something's going on here. And so after I got off the pain meds, and thank God I was not someone who ended up addicted. I friggin' hated them. I used them, and then I was done with them. I knew people that weren't so lucky. And the insurance adjuster actually said to me, yeah, you're not doing that. We'll give you some money, get lost, and go do something else.
Right.
And I turned to my wife. Actually, I went for the wrong thing. I went to be a cantor, a singing person, and I was okay, but I was not great. And I felt there was something in me that could be great. And I loved helping my millennials that were having trouble. I said to my wife, I wonder if there's more effed up millennials than the 3 or 4. There's a lot.
Yeah, but how would you find... Now, my first thing, as you're telling me this, I'm shaking my head quietly to myself thinking, okay, let's say that's what you wanted to do. And let's say you had a passion for it. Let's say you knew you were at the beginnings of being really good at it and you could develop that skill. Where are you going to find a room full of them just standing around waiting for help? Where would you... You can't just go, oh, well, I'm going to help millennials. Oh, there's a group of them right over there. I mean, that's got to be a tough move when you knew what you wanted to do, but you didn't know where to go do it.
So 2 words.
Yeah.
Dumb luck. I was in the right place at the right time. I was in a middle school, disguised as a middle school teacher. I didn't have any formal degrees in anything I've done. I'm self-taught. I've learned from great masters, great mentors. That's how I've learned. And this middle school, I was teaching grades 5 to 8 middle school, loved my stuff and knew I would get more people to the shows at the end of the year and at the end of the school year, and more people would sign up, which they did. So they said, okay, you teach music. We have no budget. We'll give you $2,000 for percussion, which this is from some of the stuff I used with my percussion ensembles. And we had a whole bunch of other stuff, all professional grade. And I started working with them. And so 9/11 comes, and there's no frigging way in the world I'm going to have them singing and dancing for the next 2 weeks. So I say to them, what makes you feel safe? What makes you feel unsafe? And so many of them were afraid of public humiliation, of being out in front of people. I said, Each one of you will get an opportunity to be Mr. Ken once a year. So you can either sing a song, you can play a musical instrument, or you can do a musical book report. And then I'd have parents to come and save little Timmy, poor little Timmy, and say, Timmy can't do this. You can't make him do this. I'm coming to you. So I say, you tell Timmy, I won't let him go up until he's ready. And so I used all the things Nelson taught me, all the things that Jim Blackley had taught me. I had done some work in the woo-woo world of Reiki and therapeutic touch, and I found that anybody can be healed depending on what modality works for them. Placebo effect is vastly underrated as a great thing. If you believe in something, it helps.
Sure.
But what will transform your life are three things: something creative, something physical, something reflective. If you do that as your daily routine, your life is transformed. And so I started working with good old Timmy on these things and built it up. Friggin' kid aced it and asked me if he could be in my music theater productions afterwards.
Wow.
And he's a guy, he actually runs his own little production theater as a sideline now in Montreal. God bless him. And so then parents started realizing I could work with anxiety. So they come to my studio where I would do recordings and all that stuff and say,
Sure.
Mr. Ken, can you help James? And then I had a kid who had what was called encopresis, where he was pooping in his pants, and he was 14. And the system worked. I had cobbled what I learned from Nelson, what I learned from Jason. Jason, who's Jason? Not Jason. I learned from Jim Blackley. And who else did I learn from? Someone else, I can't remember right now. And I put that all together, and I started creating this mentoring program, and it worked. And
You know, it sounds a lot, and I could be wrong on here. It sounds a lot like you're when you said you're cobbling together things, but you're really taking all of this information and pointing it at each individual at their individual needs.
Well said.
Before, you can't. In other words, you couldn't just write one book that fits everybody.
No,
it really wouldn't happen that way. And I'm interested now. You got my attention, Ken. Let's keep going. Where'd you go from there? What happened next?
I'm just going to quick aside.
No,
When
go
I
ahead.
train my mentors, I mess with their heads. I want to unscramble everything that they assume about millennials and Gen Z. I want to change and wipe everything away, and then give them the ability to look. I want them to be Columbo. Excuse me, I just saw you doing this. And really be a curious traveler in their worlds. Let's go back.
Right.
Mr. H hits the car. I go through the thing. I then start this. I've had these people coming to visit my studio and doing these. I didn't have a name for it. It wasn't mentoring. I don't know what I called it.
Sure.
Stuff. So I thought, okay, how am I going to do this? And my sister, a real boomer, she's 6 years older than me, my big sister, she said, Kenny, you need to, they all call me Kenny, don't call me Ken. Kenny, you really need a website, and you should find some place to publish your stuff, because I love writing.
Well, sure, but like you just said, there's no name for it because you really weren't driving at a product. You were just doing what you were doing. There wasn't no name for it. You didn't sit down and say, "Oh, I'm going to name something where I can put it in a bottle and sell it." You just, I don't know what it's called. It's Ken stuff.
Ken stuff. I like that. And so I started writing for a magazine called Our Kids Magazine. They loved my stuff. They were publishing it, and the editor left. And he said, Ken, you shouldn't be writing for them. You should be writing for the Huffington Post. So at that time, they kind of took everything. But if they put you on the front page of either the parenting or the front page, they loved your stuff. And it was funny, like Deepak Chopra, me, or Deepak Chopra, me. And then see a drop every half hour, we'd go, as new stuff would go in, right? And it was almost 100 articles. And
wow.
it was fun. And I started getting people from the States contacting me saying, could I do it? I'm thinking, can I do this on Zoom? Actually, then it was Skype, when Skype was the only game in town. And it actually worked better because these kids were getting in trouble on their screens. So going to a mentor once or twice a week, ideally twice a week, their screens became a safe place to mess up and start again. My secret is two things. Find your goals. What are the challenges to the goals? What are the first signposts of success? Once a mentee or a Zoom, a baby Gen X or Gen Z, hello, I'm having trouble. Senior moment. Once they think of the first level of success, I've changed how they think.
So say that again. I want to follow you on that. It was find a goal, and then you said the next thing was to identify what obstacles might.
What are the challenges to those things being the way you would like them to be?
And
Not
then
when
what?
you mess up.
Right, and then what would be your first measure of success, knowing you're getting there?
Exactly.
Okay,
Well
go
done.
ahead.
Well done. That changes them. And so putting all of these pieces together started to transform them. The next one was, remember, something creative, something physical, something reflective. They're not ready for that. So we started daily routine. I say to my guys, and when I train my mentors, I say the same thing. You can only do in your life what you can do in a day. We start with a sleep-wake routine. What does that mean? Timmy's never getting up on time. I yell at him, he still doesn't get on time. Well, it's because, what's his sleep routine? I don't have a sleep routine. Trust me, Timmy, you have a sleep routine. It may be playing 8 hours of name some video game with somebody,
Yeah.
but you have a sleep routine. Let's figure out how to modify the sleep routine. And we're going to talk shortly about the challenge of living their lives online. The advantage, because AI is coming, virtual reality is coming. We need them to tell us how to live that other part of our lives. You're doing it right now, right? But
Right.
going back, the daily routine starts to look at their sleep-wake routine, things they should do. Do you brush your teeth? Oh, at least 2 or 3 times a week. Okay, why don't we chart that? Well, I'm kind of smoking a bit of weed. Okay, let's chart that. I don't tell anyone to stop anything. A lot of my guys end up realizing for themselves because 3 weeks down the daily routine, it's like, okay, not poor Timmy, Jason, what happened on these 3 days? Oh, I didn't wake and bake, and I stopped smoking weed during the day. Let's do more of that. So we're looking for gold. We're looking for gold. I teach this to
That
the
is
people.
actually, guys, they'd make fun of that, like you're keeping a diary. So I'm glad you didn't use that word because that has such a bad
agreed.
connotation to the word.
Agreed,
But
big time.
when you say you're tracking something, that's more methodical, that's more military, that's more
Yes.
intentional.
Yes.
You're walking deliberately through the week.
Brilliant.
That's a
Absolutely.
good way to put that. I like that.
And what it also does is it's free of judgment. Because guess what? They're going to mess up. They're going to forget. And every time they do, they say, cool, let's start again. One of the problems with millennials and Gen Z, they live online, and so they can erase stuff. If it doesn't work, they just go another way. They just go another way.
Right.
And so when they come to the real world and they mess up, they don't have a track. Part of what we have to do is teach them how to start again, how to start again. What's the new way? If you stop doing the daily routine, okay, what's the first thing you want to chart? I drank a lot. I didn't tell you what I've been drinking, but let's chart that. Here's my rule. A beer is 1 unit. Hard liquor is 2 units. I had 14 units last night. Okay, how much do you want to have as your stopping point? Let's avoid double digits. We
Right.
don't just say no. We want to make micro successes. We want little things like how they live online. Little micro successes.
I wish I could do that. I get exactly what you're saying. I've raised 32 children, and
Holy moly!
Yeah,
Don't you ever sleep?
well, my wife did a lot of the work. But the last batch of 8 was 4 boys and 4 girls, and
Wow.
the last one, Gen Z kid, the one, Briggs, that we're
Right.
talking about before the show started. I think I've made some terrible parenting mistakes with him that I didn't make with others. He was the last one, and all of the rules that I had put on my other sons, but it was all my kids. You're going to get up, you're going to shower, you're going to brush your teeth, you're going to start your day, you're going to make your bed. We're going to get you in a routine. I don't care if you're going to school, if you're going to work, I don't care if you're doing chores, I don't care if the day is hanging out with your friends, but you're going to start with a routine. And I did several of those things with all of my children. I forced them to do it. I said, don't care if you like it or not. You're 5 years old. Let's get started. And it became a routine in their life.
Yeah.
I didn't do it with him as much. And I remember thinking, okay, he'll get it. He'll get it. He's the youngest. He's seen what's going on. He's been part of this house for all these years. By the time he's 18, all of the lessons that I've been pounding into the other kids, I did instruct him, but I didn't force it on him the way I did everybody else. And I have allowed a young man to evolve that is not like the other kids. He did not He is at a point now where he is super lazy. He does not have a routine. And the other day he came home with he works for Cutco Knives, and he's got a mentor there who's teaching him this product as they're selling them. And I let him; he's doing it. But the guy says, "You know what, Dad? He gave me this book." And, the book is so smart. You know, one of the things it says to do is to wake up every day and start with a routine, make my bed, and get going and go, I've been telling you that for 18 years. Why all of a sudden does it make more sense when a book tells you? And the thing about him being lazy, I have now I've never had to worry about that with my kids because I pounded it into them from day one. But I have, and this, maybe you have a clue to this one. He's 18, almost 19. And he skips chores. I can write them down on a list. And why didn't you do this one? Oh, I didn't see it. How could you not fucking see it? It was on a list. You read all the other ones, dumbass. Of course you saw it. Or he'll do a chore and he doesn't do it quite how he's supposed to. He knows and he half-asses it. So now I'm at a point where I can't go back and retrain him from 6 years old till now. So I've said, okay, if you do every chore that I give you on a list for a week, I'll give you $1 million. There's your reward. I will give you $1 million. I'll buy you a brand new car, but I'll bet you can't do your chores correctly every day and he can't. He wouldn't do it. I said, okay. Now, so we've tried to reward. That didn't work. I'm now going to kick you out. I am going to put you in your truck and push you out in the street. You cannot live here anymore unless you do your chores for a week.
It won't work.
Please, just 1 week. Just do the stuff how you're supposed to do it. If it's important that you live here, you'll do it. He can't do it.
No.
And I'm now, because I have not laid the foundation with him, I have nowhere to go. I look at him and I go, I have no idea how to parent you now and I admit that the things that I laid into the other kids at early ages, I slacked off with him. And I don't know why I thought he would get it. I don't know why I picked this one and said, okay, he's going to understand. He'll get it, or the other kids, they needed this, but he doesn't. He'll be all right. And yet here we
Briggs,
are.
Right?
Yeah, that's Briggs.
And he's the one that's on the videos.
Yeah.
So he's incredibly creative.
He is.
He's crazy smart.
Absolutely.
He's very present. He's very, very engaged, which a lot of Gen Z aren't. Here's the problem. Written paper means squat to most of these people, not all of them. What does is something on their screens. So what I do, because he's still a Rhodes Scholar compared to one of most of my guys who had this control, like you're talking about, or not. Go to university, no one's around, start smoking weed, playing massive video games, not going to school, building up anxiety.
Right.
And they figure, okay, my anxiety's too much. If I smoke more weed and play more games, then I'll avoid the anxiety. Telling their parents, oh, everything's fine, everything's great. And then we get the failure at April or May.
Right.
And then I get inundated with parents. And
Sure.
we help them. We will. But here's the thing. These people live on screens. Their calendar on their computer and their phone are never synced. And they probably have clicked everything on every website. So they get 800 notifications on anything that goes up. So they just erase things.
Right.
So we clean up the notifications. We go after Facebook, 800 birthdays. We go after LinkedIn, 500 in unnecessary. It's okay if I'm saying these companies?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Things, all these things that are bombarding them. We clean them up. We sync the calendar with the phone. And now we say, okay, you work mentoring with me twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, or Tuesdays or Fridays. Let's put it in. Let's put a reminder. When do you need a reminder? 15 minutes? Oh, I think I need an hour. Because,
Now stop right there, because I've put these things on his phone. Not quite the way you do, but they're on his screen. He'll go down through a checklist of 4 chores and he checks them off. And then he goes to go do them. He doesn't check them off after they're done. And then I say, you didn't go, oh, you know what? I was taking out the trash and then I was going to sweep the pool and I checked it off my list like it was done. And then I forgot to go do it.
Absolutely. So
and then I tell him there was one that I said, okay, let's just say I'm going to kick you out of the house. You have one job, one chore the whole week. 7 days, you have one chore. Please make sure the trash cans are at the street on Thursday night. So Friday morning, the trash guy can pick them up. That is your only job. If you do that one job, you can live here. If you don't do that job, you can't. Out of 5 weeks, he did it 2 times. And
Okay.
he even set an alarm to remind him, which is something you just brought up. And he goes, well, I turned off the alarm and then I was going to go do it. And then I got sidetracked and I
Absolutely.
forgot. So where do you go with something like that? Where does your mentoring take them there?
So what you did was you took the physical checklist and brought it back onto his phone, which
Yes.
doesn't work, as you see. What we do is, let's say Google Calendar. So it's a task. So it's an actual event, not a task. It's an event with a reminder. And he's going to hit close. What we do is say, okay, from now on, you can't hit close. You can hit snooze. Snooze means every 9 minutes you'll be reminded. You can't hit close. You have to hit snooze. I hit close. Okay, how about this time? Okay, I hit snooze, but it was too long. And then I hit snooze, and then I gave up. Okay, the other thing you do is you grab it and you lower it to a time that'll work better. What's the problem here is these people live online where there's no time. We had Gilligan's Island at 4 o'clock on Tuesdays. And so we knew what the time of the day was because it was Gilligan's Island's
Sure.
day.
Right.
They live with no time, no connection to what's going on. And so this simple exercise where there's a snooze or a close and then they drag can now slowly intersect into their non-time world. Because they'll think, oh yeah, I'll do it later. Yeah, so totally. They're trying to use the world, but they don't know how. This simple exercise is the way to bring them to that. And also sticky notes. I'm pointing to a sticky note. So if that is not working, a yellow sticky note on the side of their screen where they live that says, remember on Thursdays, garbage can lids or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're going into their world and then bringing them out, going to the world, bringing them out. And if we just use our systems, we're not understanding the dynamics of how that other world is built, which is designed to give them endorphin hits on clicks, swipes, and it's timeless. And so they think they're doing it, but this is there's many of these tricks I use, but that's a big one for you that I'd strongly recommend.
You know, I'll tell you, I'm gonna change directions just a little bit with you because I want to get into what you do for mentoring people to go mentor others.
Right.
But I did a little homework on you, and I went to YouTube and I was looking at some of your videos on there, and you got 85 videos, and I've done homework on people before where you try to understand what they do. Now, what you've just talked to me about in here is you said, now hold on, you got right down to the nuts and bolts of what I was discussing, and you had very quick, practical applications.
Yes.
Now, I know you wouldn't want to give away every trick of the trade and every format during a video. Obviously, you don't want to do that, but you didn't give any. Ken, yeah, you didn't give one. I watched these videos, and all of your videos were, okay, so when I get you into the program, I'll teach you how to mentor. You can go mentor others, and there's all these things in here. Next video was, now when you get in the program, I'm going to teach you some stuff. I'm clicking through. Is the guy ever going to tell me anything other than he's got a cool program? You had a few things in there. Well, I'll tell you, the best ones were the people that had worked with you. Their little testimonials. I can't believe they didn't have more views on those videos of people that said, I've worked with the guy, this stuff works. You know what I mean? That was a real powerful thing. But I'll tell you, I was like, well,
Brilliant.
What is it you're teaching, Ken? What are you going to teach me to teach them? And it was almost like you're saying, I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to listen to me.
That's so
now,
good. Thank you. This is brilliant. What am I going to teach them?
Well, and the thing was my first thought was, I looked at my wife and said, the guy doesn't tell you what he's going to tell you, so I don't know that I want to go. Now that I'm listening to you, unless you had a specific thing to give me nuts and bolts like we just did right here in 10 minutes, what was I expecting?
Brilliant.
What could you have possibly told anybody? Because like we've discovered, when you've cobbled these things together, it is so specific to the person, the age, the temperament, the problem. I don't know what I was expecting you to say. I don't know what kind of witch's brew I was hoping that you'd serve out there. But now that I look back, I'm like, well, he'd be there 9 hours trying to give everybody a piece of something. You couldn't do it. So I'm going to apologize, Ken, for my
just
lack
gave
of
me-
attention last evening as I'm doing my homework, buddy.
That sounds like it's my fault. Great lesson you just gave me. People who have been coming because they have a mentor who I've trained and have been talking about it. And then someone said, my sister again, you should make a website for this part of mentoring.
Sure.
And, I followed what people told me I should do. What you've just given me is going to help so many people like yourself, people in your audience who really want to help young adults understand what it is I do. So thank you. You not only have helped me and mentors, you think of the hundreds of people who will be affected by what you've just given me, dude.
Oh, I don't know that I gave you anything. I'm literally just responding to. I'm listening. But I'm telling you that from my outside perspective looking in. In 24 hours, just researching what you had out there versus what you've said, it was easy for me to make the connection. Go, okay, whether he was doing it intentionally or subconsciously, it makes sense now. But maybe this interview could wedge in between and go, hold on a second, pay attention to what's out there because Ken's got some stuff, but you haven't sat with him yet. You haven't talked to him yet. You have no idea what this man can offer you because you haven't sat 10 minutes yet. All you've done is scroll through some videos, and because you didn't get any little morsels and tidbits that you can run home with, and that's the thing. You weren't teasing anybody with little trinkets. Everything was, well, come check it out, and we'll go from there. And for me, from my old, I'm an old dog looking at things. That wasn't cutting it for me.
Right on.
But I'll tell you what, you weren't wrong. You weren't wrong because there wasn't anything to tell anybody yet, and there is here. You've done great. You did in 5 minutes. Now I want to go and find out more. I want to say, okay, well, what else is there? That's the way I feel right now. Is what else am I missing?
Yeah, thank you.
Good stuff, Ken. So far, good stuff.
Wow, you're teaching me a lot here. Thank you so much. So let me think about that. What is it that makes a great mentor, and what do I do that no one else does? Because I do stuff that no one else does. And I was asking some of my mentees today, and one of my guys said, you talk to us like adults.
Yeah.
And that is the first thing. I'm not here to make anyone do anything. I have to teach you how to be a diplomat with Gen Zs and millennials. What does that mean? It means you tell them to go to hell, you give them directions, and they thank you for it. I want to be
good luck with that.
Well, I do it all the time. I don't tell them to go to hell.
No, but I say good luck telling me that because that's a tough sell. If you can do that, then there needs to be a statue someplace because that's a tough bridge to cross. I'll admit that.
I find that the way Nelson would speak to me and get me to do things I wasn't ready to, the band leader, Nelson Simons, was very much like that. He never made me do things. He explained why it would be helpful. And it made me want to go to the ends of the earth for him. And that's what I do with my mentees. If you don't mind, I'm just going to look up some examples of what I've been doing recently with my guys.
Sure. Just for everybody listening while he's looking some stuff up, when we're done with this, at the bottom of the interview, we'll put it up on YouTube, but we get more of an audience on the audio portion. So just so you guys know, wherever you're listening or watching this interview, at the very end of it, we're going to put up whatever links Ken wants us to put up to direct you to where you can get a hold of him or join his programs, wherever they are and however they work. We're going to give you the links to do this. I don't think at the end of this, we're just going to say goodbye. We'll give you some stuff to go with. This is not paid. He's not paying me. I'm not paying him. Literally, you're looking at two guys. You're listening to two guys that are just hashing some stuff out for the betterment of others. That's it. That's the only reason I'm doing this interview. That's the only reason he's here talking about it, is because in the end, it will benefit others.
I love that. Thank you. And what I do is threefold. First of all, people come to me for me or my first degree mentors to work with young adults who are stuck. Because if you think about it, historically, no one took care of their kids after 12, 13, or 14. They went off to the war. They became indentured servants. They became, they learned under a master, right? They would do all these different things.
Right.
Mentors have been around. I mean, they spoke about it in the Odyssey. There was a dude named Mentor who was there to help Telemachus find his father to go out into the world. And that's a mentor's job. And parents have gotten the raw deal. So that's the first thing I do. The next is I train people to become mentor and to work with me. People come to me. I have always a waiting list by September, October. And so no matter how many mentors we have, we'll always have waiting lists, but people graduate. When they graduate from us, we get more people. So we're always looking to train people. It's a hard course. I interview everyone personally, and I have to see that someone like yourself who's curious, who has found things that work and wonder why it doesn't work for everyone, which is the case. And finally, we have our parent partners. We have parent mentoring workshop, where I train parents on a shorter amount, all these different ways of how we do things. So I have this gentleman, I'll use first names, named Max. Max, absolutely brilliant. He was an absolute star at Berklee School of Music,
Right.
and did honors, got into the real world and had not a clue how to do anything. No organization when he wasn't told what to do, wasn't being applauded when he finished his job or doing anything, and didn't know where to go. So these are the 3 goals he picked. Get better at self-organization, learn how to budget, moving out smartly, planning a business, no idea what to do. Picking a lane, he had so many things he's good at, the smartest to start with. One thing that can get my career up and going, making a little money with music as well as another job, maybe studio or sound healing. And then I said, what about teaching? He goes, I love teaching. I'm going to make him have his own music school. He doesn't know that yet. I don't know that yet. Balancing my different modes, creative, anxious, negative, procrastinating. Here's an interesting thing. If you ask most of these Gen Zs, how's your anxiety? Go, fine. Then you go, what is fine out of 0 to 10? It's like a 7. It's a 7. It's always a 7.
Right.
How about we try to get you down to a floor of 4? We're gonna, because
That is so funny you say that, because my experience with that's exactly true. It's like, I'm fine. How do you know you're fine? Well, I'm stressed out all the time. Who cares? It's just, I'm okay. I'm used to it.
Exactly. And so we do what's called diaphragmatic breathing. And I train my mentors to do that, and I train them. I had a great vocal coach, Angela Havalashko, God bless her. And she would have me lie down on the floor for every session, put my hand on my chest, put my hand on my belly, and learn how to breathe deeply into my stomach. And I've been singing for a long time, but wasn't doing it right. When we say with deep breathing, they usually do that, which is the wrong one. That's Marvin Martian. I am very hungry, right? And
Right.
it means I am anxious, give me more anxiety. And so teaching them to breathe, not when they're anxious, when they're not anxious, when they're at 7 or 6 or 5, and to bring down that floor. I often tell my mentees, if the person in your head was your parent, they would have been arrested years ago for child abuse. And that voice is supposed to be your best friend. That's supposed to be the one that says, you're hanging on the end of a cliff, goes, you could do it, Mark. You could pull yourself up. You're almost there. And right now it's saying, oh, you're embarrassing us, Mark. Why don't you just fall now?
Yeah, just let go. Just stop.
Yeah, just let go. Just let go. Give up.
Right.
And so we teach them these different things, and the anxiety floor starts to drop and come down. And so we can't just ask how you are, how you're feeling, especially with millennials and Gen Zs. We have to actually do a gentle investigation. Now, if you become the inquisitor, how many parents at the kitchen table have their kids sit down and become the inquisitor? That is the room of torture. You wonder why they're never showing up for dinner? That's why. Don't ask them how their day was. Don't ask them anything.
Yeah.
Let them bring up whatever they want and go with it. You'll learn so much more. So how do we find out what's going on? We use these type of things. We use the daily routine. And as we start to do that, like that other question, what does that mean? What's the number?
Right.
Start to figure out what's going underneath. And so those were his 3. And the anxiety was at 7 and at 8 all the time.
Wow.
And then what were the challenges to those 3? Getting organized. My living, virtual, and mental spaces are chaotic. How cool is that? What's your challenge with picking a lane? Choices. FOMO, fear of missing out, but I created a new one called FOMO, fear of messing up, perfectionism. they've seen so many people on social media being laughed at for trying stuff.
Oh my God, that is such a dynamic you and I didn't have to deal with growing up. We had to deal with a certain
No.
number of people right around us once we were out in the world. But
Exactly.
that stuff that they're dealing with that perfection or that attempt, that
Yes.
embarrassment, that it's in their house because it's online. That
Yes.
social media brings it right to their bedroom, right to their desk, and they're seeing it, absorbing it, and afraid of it all the time. You
Yes.
can't ever get away from that. I used to tell my kids, and this, I don't know how this pertains to it, but it's talking about, I was thinking what you just said about the embarrassment that they feel online because they see people fail and they're having anxiety just watching it happen and they're not even trying it yet.
So
But
true.
when I was a kid, we weren't as tuned in, and this is what I tell my kids all the time, or I used to when they were home. They're all pretty much moved out now. But I said
Yay.
we would go home on Friday from school, and we'd have the weekend or a long weekend if there was a Monday holiday or Christmas vacation for 2 weeks, and we'd come back and we'd have to learn what everybody did. Oh, you broke up with your girlfriend. Oh, you fell off your bike and broke your arm. You're in a cast. Oh, you know what? You went to your grandparents this weekend. And we learned what everybody did, and during the
I love
time
it.
that we weren't aware of what everybody was doing. We were home doing projects or with our family, playing with our dog, playing on our street, riding our bike, and we were disconnected
Yes.
from everybody else, and we were in our little microsphere of our neighborhood and our family.
And
They're
we were
never
grounded.
disconnected, Ken. They don't disconnect ever. They know what every one of them knows what they had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everybody knows the second someone broke up with somebody. Everybody knows everything about they never are disconnected from the rest of the world. They don't have their own little world anymore.
That's right.
Everything is brought right to them. They see everything going on with all of their friends and all of their disappointments and frustrations. And like you said, all of the, oh shit, that could happen to me. How embarrassing. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to go. It's in their face every second of the day. You can't, how do you get people to disconnect?
So, two ways. First one is, why don't they get out of bed for 14 hours? Because they have their friggin' phone next to the bed. You can't do this. The mentors can. I'll say, pick a name. Let's go with Briggs. Briggs, where's your phone? Oh, it's right next to me. The charger's right next to the bed.
Yeah.
How about this? Do you have a plug on the other side of the room? Yeah, I do. Okay, Briggs, go put the charger there and put the phone there. And if it's too much, then get up and bring it back. But before you go to bed, put it back. And this will take a month to actually work. And there'll be bumps and bounds. And what do we say? We say, okay, how do we start again? How do we try it again? What's a different form of getting there? Do we?
Right.
So one of the things I do is you can't lie in the bed. Yes, you can lie in the bed. You can't sit on the bed. Lying on the bed is only for sleeping. Well, I'm not comfortable on the chair. Get a comfortable chair. Find a different place. But do not lie down with your phone. And so what we've done, oh, look, yay. It's Mac, right? And so what we've done is the first place of separating them. And then I'll say, do you like books? Read a book. Do you like music? Listen to music from a distance. You know, do you like doing prayer? Do you like doing meditation? I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
Do something which is back to our old world. And here's the second one. I love this one. Do you walk? Yeah, I have to with my dog. No, do you walk by yourself ever? Do you know that all the great poets, all the great scientists would walk for an hour in the morning? Really? Yeah, they really would. What if you found a park nearby and just walked around trees? Or if there's a forest, do that. If you have to drive there, drive there. I'm cool with that. But go for a walk, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Because I'll talk about 5 minutes in a second. Just do 5 minutes. It
Sure.
changes everything. They start doing it. And then I say, Briggs, find your tree. Somewhere in there is a tree that I want to be your tree. Don't tell anyone else except your mentor. Put your hands on it. Feel it. Something powerful that happens. It's kind of a version of what you're talking about of that weekend. It's a time where they're back to grounded. They're physical. There's something real that's been up here for 20, 40, 100, 200 years. Has
Yeah.
this energy, right? And it changes. It changes them. We break the cycle in little pieces. Bedtime, a walk. And each of these things start to build on each other. Don't even get me started with Gen Zs would rather eat ground glass than make an email. Forget a phone call. Forget talking to someone face to face.
Yeah. They don't email. They don't phone
No.
call. Not at all. Yeah.
What ifism? What if they don't listen to the email? What if they don't read the email? What if I do it wrong and they yell at me? What if I say the wrong things? They have 800 what ifs. They're real. So we start. I say, we use a compliment sandwich. Start with something nice. You're sending it to your dad. Did he do anything for, and I'll have my parent partner, I'll have the dad be the email practice partner.
But what if it's not that, Ken? What if it's not? I mean, I get what you're saying, that every kid could be afraid of doing anything. But to me, an old school guy, I would tell you that's a cop-out. My kid's not afraid of an email. He's like, what if I mess up the email? He didn't give a shit. He's lazy. He doesn't want to write an email. He doesn't want to. He doesn't make a phone call because it's uncomfortable. He's not embarrassed. He just like, that's just, I don't want to do it. I get what you're saying. I'm with you, but I'm going to offer something else too. Absolutely. From a nuts and bolts parenting kind of guy. That not all of these things these kids are afraid of doing, and that's why they don't. Because
you're right.
And I'm not saying you're doing this on purpose. I don't want to paint you in a bad light at all. But as soon as you say, well, kids don't want to do an email, they're afraid they'll fail. They don't want to make a phone call. They're afraid they'll be embarrassed. They don't want to try anything because they don't want to have failure in front of others. Now you're kind of making them a victim. Where they're looking and go, well, I'm just this poor little timid thing, and I'm afraid of myself, I'm afraid of my shadow, and I'm afraid of messing up. Therefore, I'm not going to do or try anything because I'm a little church mouse. No, you're lazy. You're kind of an asshole. You're just a typical kid. You're not afraid of anything. You're just lazy, and you're hiding behind, I'm just afraid of failure. No, now I'm not saying some aren't. There's probably a ton of them that are. You've probably run into hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. I'm telling you, the ones in my sphere, my kids' friends and relatives and nieces and nephews, they're fine. None of them are afraid of an email. They're just lazy and they don't want to do it. I'm just throwing that perspective in there too. Dude,
it's a different perspective and it's very real. You mentioned one time that there was a farm. Are you living on farmland? Is this sort of where you live? Like, what's?
No, we live in Central California, which is a ton of farm and oil. There's farmland around us. We are not on a farm, but we're very near them.
So it's more that sort of world.
Sure, yeah. And the kid is heavy into FFA and agriculture, even though he's out of high school, that he knows a ton about it. That is a passion of his, is that world.
That is grounding. And so there's two things that I train my mentors and I tell them, the people who come to me. If I feel that this is a family I can work with, where the kid isn't just shining them on, that it is one of these people who are truly trapped. And it's a huge amount because the online world has untrained them for what you naturally have. If they're doing farming, they're physical. If they're going out and they have to do things, it's physical. They're not in their heads. Most of the people, and I don't just work in the States, I work mainly in the States. I have people in England, I have people in France, I've had some people in Middle East, I have people in Switzerland. Same issues. They're all in their heads. So when I have rural people, it's a different issue to a certain extent. When I find that I feel that they're good people, I tell them, I'm willing to do a month, twice a week. Sixth session, we'll have a sixth session ceremony where me and Timmy Smith will say, are we a good team in the Timmy Smith program?
Right.
Why? Because by the sixth session, I can see, are they shining me on and they're just trying to kill time because they don't want to do anything? Right. Or do they really have these things that most of these young people, at least that I see for almost 22 years, are having because they live online?
Do you cut people off if you feel that they go through their sixth session and you feel like they're just, like you said, burning time was a great, they're just biding their time on that. Yeah, sure. Do you cut them off from that or do you change directions?
I don't cut them off. I graduate them. I say, you don't really need me, Timmy. You know what you need to do. And I don't think that this is it. How about we look for something else that would work well? And then I'm going to try to find them the hard ass. I'm not that. I'm Nelson. I'm the guy that wants to inspire you to be great. All of my guys, like Okay, I call her Maeve. It's not a real name, but let's use her name's Darby. God bless her.
Sure.
Darby was one of these people. So she would start crying when we had to make an email. And then she became the queen of the emails. She's also on the spectrum. That's not a reason. Don't assume everyone on the spectrum cries. Okay, this is her. She's emotional. No. She's ADHD. She's friggin' brilliant. And then she mastered them. And then it was phone calls. And then, like, doing one phone call was torture. And then last week she finally graduated, solid A's. We have a career for her. She's on the spectrum. She wants to be an archivist. It's perfect. She knows more Latin than most of the teachers know. She's like a rock star. She was in totally the wrong course. And there's a way I teach my mentors how to find the right course. And
is she the one who was in 2 of your videos online? I think it was
yes,
her. It's her name. Yeah, I recognize that when you said that.
She's a rock star. So I want to just pull up what she just said. Where's Darby? It's hilarious. She did 4 phone calls in a row that were all challenging last week. It was like, and I'm like just being quiet. I'm just letting her do it because I'm in my head. I'm screaming, "Holy crap!" So she said, "What was her line?" Oh no! Don't. You know what phone calls are? Not a big thing. And this took me a couple of years. She can now do this in emails, in phone calls, person to person. We have to prep. Those 4 phone calls, no prep. But this is someone who lives online. She is a master at it. And she has now transformed. So, yes, there are people who are totally lazy. I say that after the succession, when I say yes, and it's true, since 2001, I have a 95% success ratio. Why? Because 5% can fool me and be those lazy SOBs who are just shining me on. They catch me, not often, right?
But you're human too, Ken. You're human too.
Some of them are just better than me at shining people on, you know? So we went far afield.
Well, you know, I kind of want to bring this to we're going to keep going down the same road about the individual successes and how you can identify an individual and the issues. First of all, it's very clear to me listening to you that you have to find out where they are first and how, like you said, Darby couldn't make a phone call. Well, Briggs can make a phone call like nobody's business. He just didn't want to. And you have to evaluate everybody in between and then pick up where they are and move forward. And you haven't just, you see, people are going to think by listening to the beginning of this that it's all really special needs type of introverted, really withdrawn, and that's not the whole picture. That is an area of your expertise, but you cover all the way to people that are completely just at a point where they're confused. They have no social anxiety, but they have no idea what they're doing, and you take that and you give, like you said, let's have a goal. Let's find out what the obstacles are and what the measure of success would be. That can apply to anyone on the spectrum.
Yes.
Anyone.
Oh, anyone of any kind.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So you got to tell me what is the main thing. Now this is I'm asking you to give me a sales pitch. Let's say I was a guy looking at you going, Ken, I don't know about being a mentor. I don't think I can be one. I don't think I'd be good for anybody. I can't even mentor myself. But if you were going to educate me, give me a sales pitch right now, Ken. Like you're trying to win me over. Just how would I contact you? What am I in for? Is it a year? Is it 6 sessions? Is it 90? You know, what's the commitment that I'm looking at as a potential person walking into your front door? What am I looking at?
First of all, you have to have one important ingredient, and that is a real desire to help people. The people who come to me are not trying to get a second job. They're not worried about the extra money. Money's good. But they're not just trying to have someone spoon feed them clients, which we do. They want to change the world. They realize that people our age, if you don't mind me including you, are often unappreciated and undervalued by the younger generation, and we have so much to give. But you out there don't know how to connect with them. I'm going to teach you the way I teach my mentees, my apologies. And that is, I want to transform you over a series of 37 one-hour classes. And here's the interesting thing. You're going to have 13 hours in the first module. You cannot pay me for the second module unless you pass the first module. You're going to have live mentor practice where you're going to practice with one of my mentors, Jason or Philip or me, and you're going to practice how to work with a mentee. And we're not going to tell you how to do it. We're going to give you the illnesses and cures in Module 1, but you have to figure out how to deal with this young person. And I want to see what you do when you fail. And we tell you failed. And if you blame us, you're not getting into Module 2.
Yeah.
You understand it. We'll
Yeah.
let you buy Module 2. In Module 2, you're going to have 5 live mentor practices. And we're going to teach you all the things we didn't teach you in Module 1. I had 4 or 5 years after I started working at the Huffington Post where people didn't know me. They didn't come from the middle school. They didn't know Mr. Ken. And so it didn't work for a bunch of people because I didn't know how to, in one session, transform a person who's used to, what you're going to learn is, everyone has said, you have anxiety, you have drug addiction, you have this. We're going to fix this. We're going to work on your anxiety. We're going to find your anxiety. You're making more anxiety. We amplify the things we focus on. I'm going to transform you into someone who is truly curious into their world. I'm going to give you the exact words, and you will see that these people will share honestly and truthfully with you what they need. I'm going to give you a chart of life. There's a ton of things that they need help with. Most of our guys don't do Mother's Day or Father's Day cards or gifts. Oh, everyone does it. Not with me. They have to go 2 weeks before. I love papyrus cards. You can get them on Amazon. We order them in advance. We have them write. I don't write something. Well, let's try the compliment sandwich. Let's try to write something. We don't put poop in the middle. We're going to find out what do they like. We're going to do all these different pieces. You're going to learn how to, every part of their lives. They go on trips. They're always late. We're going to give them checklists for how to prepare a week in advance, a day in advance, a day out.
How many modules are there in the whole program?
Great question. Well, there's 3 official modules that you pay for, and there's a 4th that is free. Module 2 is where you learn all. So Module 1, you're going to learn the 5 kinds of anxiety that people have, the different kinds of depression, failure to launch, the school failures, searching for jobs, all these things,
right?
And how to change it. In Module 2, I'm going to teach you how to actually mentor young adults who live online and how to bring them out. And in the 3rd module, I'm going to teach you how to become a professional mentor, how to work with Worldwide Youth Mentoring, we call it WIM, how to work with parents and the good parents and the challenging parents, and how to make them good parent partners. And then after you've passed, remember, you can't even pay me for Module 3 until you pass Module 2. But your Module 2, you really should be good enough. We're going to torture you, but we're going to make you great.
Right.
You finish Module 3, average bear does it from 6 to 9 months. If your life's busy, it could be a year. I keep an eye on you. And if I haven't heard from you in 2 or 3 weeks, because I can see how long you're studying, get a, hey, Mark, I noticed that you haven't done the 7th class. Are there anything I can help you with? Because I believe in my people. If I've let you go into this course, it's because I think you have the chance to become a great mentor. When you finish, you go through more training. We have mentor rounds. They're free. From now on, you're working with us. We get you the mentors. We get the people. But we have mentor rounds. So the last mentor round, what did we work on? We worked on, I have this thing I created called war maps. A lot of our guys in school do start to do well. We train them. But what happens is, you're not going to learn this in the modules, you'll learn this afterwards. They have 3 papers, 2 exams, all at the same time. We create war maps where they chart everything coming up. I'm going to teach you how. And then you can take a look a week in advance, go, oh, I better start this paper now. I better do these things. All these things that, because they live in this online world, what you learned and I learned being in the physical world, how to prep, how to get ready for Monday, how to do these things, how to get ready. They don't have them. We give them these pieces. And then, so that's what we taught in last mentor rounds. Whatever's going on in the world, you have a master class with me every month, as long as you're a mentor. And so these are the pieces of what I give you. And when you become one of our mentors, we take care of you. We help you be.
It's so funny. One of the first things you said when I asked you to describe that, you said, we're looking for people who care. We're looking for people who are interested in doing this. And then you said, it's not for a second job, a second income. And I didn't interrupt you, but quietly I was going, you get paid to do this? I mean, that was never a consideration when I was thinking about you helping people, training people to be a mentor. it never entered my mind that that was a job. I mean, a paying job. It just was a job you wanted to do. Like if you were going to be, any sort of a mentor or a coach or something, the $35 they give you on a Saturday to be a coach at the YMCA doesn't matter. It's that you want to be there for the kids. I never even envisioned that there was any financial part to it at all. And I think that is an aspect that most people that are trying to help kids wouldn't even really consider. They wouldn't ever. I don't think people would come to you looking for a job. They would be coming to you to look to help. That would be my thought.
Right, but there's something. Look, we charge our parents to have us mentor them. I spend $5,000 to $10,000 a year in errors and omissions insurance, which protects me and my mentors from frivolous lawsuits. We've never had one, knock wood. But, there's a lot of things I train my mentors so that we never have that happen. Things we don't talk about. We don't talk about sex. We don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics. But it's the first one that's the biggest place where
and I understand there's a business aspect to the whole thing, and I respect that. And of course, I want everybody to make money, especially when you're good at something and it's effective. Yeah, absolutely. Charge for it and get paid. Yes. I'm just saying that in this situation, it never occurred to me that there was a financial reward that could go along or with what you're doing. I thought on our end, if as people learning from you, we were learning for the benefit of those that we were interested in helping around us, children and sons and daughters, nieces and nephews, neighborhood, that type of a situation. It never even occurred to me. So when you said to get people that are interested, it's the first thing you're looking for. You interview everybody personally and you're looking for people interested. I would think everybody who's going to take the time to find you and to listen and make an appointment and sit down with you, I think every one of those people would have to have their heart in the right place or they wouldn't waste their time doing it. I mean, it can't be, no one's going to just say, oh, boy, I can make money at this. Hope I'm good at it. You got to have your heart in the right place. Or who would make the phone call, Ken? Who would even make the first phone call?
They do. There's a rule in life, 80-10-10. It's a Ken rule. 80% of everything is bleep. 10% is good. 10% is great. And our job as, I think, human beings is to look for that 10% in everyone and in everything. And that's what I look for. And that's what we do. And look, I charge for the course.
Sure.
Is the course worth an awful lot more? One day, if I'm uber famous, would we charge more? Probably, unless someone can't afford it. And then we keep it at this price.
Sure.
But the idea is I want to honor the people who are willing to do this. Every hour I did, like, today is my day off. I do like chores, but one of my guys was just before you, Mika. He's a star. He came to me. He's working. He's doing well, but he would be forgetful, and he would be given things to do in the kitchen, and he'd get them wrong and get the things wrong. Mindfulness meditation and being mindful in the moment transformed everything. He had a 5-year plan. First kid in 22 years came to a 5-year plan. God bless him, he had a 5-year plan, but he was going to go to 5 countries, one each year, to figure out what he could do to create his own cuisine. And in 6 months, we have him mixing Korean and Mexican food, which I now know. I mean, I study with them, right? We go on, we use ChatGPT, we do research. Sure. So KMX is a whole huge thing in LA, but it's at street food. He wants to make it into gourmet. So today we were talking about, okay, you now have someone who's hired you as a chef, not as a chef, as a sous chef or whatever, right? Sure. To work at his place because he sees you as a rock star. And so you're working under him. He's going to teach you these things. Instead of your mom wants you, because we think university, going to a French cuisine place for $40K that you're going to owe, why don't we do the same thing in Korea? We're going to have you, we asked ChatGPT to give us 3 different things to learn Korean, to learn the languages in a restaurant. So we found those. Do the same thing with Mexico. We're going to spend this year. He's going to learn all these skills. He's going to research all the restaurants. And then when he goes there, he's going to speak language. He wouldn't have thought of any of these things, right?
That's a guy with a roadmap, man. I mean, that's a long-term roadmap. And if he's doing it, God, how do you get him to get up and take a step forward every day, put one foot in front of the other and keep going? That's impressive.
Thank you. He had the roadmap. It was wrong. And so all I did was, again, this is what a mentor's job is to turn your mentees from their dead ends. You're there to guide them and turn them around from the dead ends. Every step of the way has to be theirs. They have to earn it. And when they fall down, what do we say? How do we start again? How do we start again?
Wow. Ken, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. We'll wrap it up with this, and I'll put all the stuff in the links that you want later. But tell everybody what's the best way to contact you to get into this program?
May I just start by saying, Mark, how much fun it is to have spent this time with you. You are awesome.
Well, thanks, man. I wasn't sure how that was going to go. When I told you in the beginning, I said, I don't have any notes. We just wing it. You look like a deer in the headlights. Like you thought, oh, man, this is going to go badly. I wasn't sure. I got to tell you, I just wanted to talk.
So much fun.
I just wanted to have a conversation.
Right.
Well, thank you for saying so, though.
Oh, I really mean it. So there are 3 things that they can do. If you have a child that needs mentoring, it's mentoringyoungadults.com. And then if you would like to become a mentor, go check out and do the research at mentorsprofessionalworkshop.com. But the easy way is go to my website, which is my name, kenrabow.com, and it has all of the different variations. That's KENRAB as in Bob, OW, or Rabow without the in, kenrabow.com. And I'd be happy to speak with you guys and gals. And please tell me that you came from Mark. You'll get extra attention.
Listen, you guys, I hope you guys are paying attention. I hope you guys rewind this and play it one more time because there was a lot of stuff in here. I got to go back and listen to it again. And I sat here through the whole thing. But problem is with me, my mind was racing with more questions and I kept holding back, not trying to interrupt. So I'm going to go back and do the whole thing again over too. Ken, thanks for stopping by. And everybody, there's another interview. I told you it was going to be different. It's not the podcast, it's the interview. And I told you we're going to have somebody interesting on. I didn't lie. I delivered my part. Now you guys got to do your part and you got to listen. And then those of you that need to click a button, you know who you are. Click the button. In the description, we'll have everything in there. Ken, thanks for coming in again. I really appreciate you, buddy. Everybody else listening, not sure where you tuned in from, AM, FM, Sirius XM, or perhaps somewhere around this planet on the Armed Service Radio Network. Remember 2 things. Wherever you go, there you are. And I'll catch you guys at the flip side. Thanks again, Ken.
Thank you, Mark. It was a pleasure.